All right, I'm back at it again. I just ran through a spider web. Whoops. Hello. Hi, birdie. Saw a snake on the way here. He was actually a long boy. He was like, I don't know, like 2 feet long. But he was, it was just a garter snake. And, yeah, he was just vibing in the grass right next to the car as I was getting in. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay, so I was looking at some of the footage that I've been kind of compiling together, and sometimes it gets a little dark. Hopefully that's not a huge deal. I think part of it is, you know, like when it gets dark, it gets dark. Especially if it's overcast, it can get really dark. Like that one time I was filming in the evening. But anyway, so hello. I'm pretty much caught up, and I've been doing so like I have currently I'm rendering not yesterday, the day before yesterday's video, and then once that's done, I'll render yesterday's video. And I'm trying to see how, like, if I'm just gonna have to do this where I render every day while I go and do other things. Also, I wanted to mention that I had some actually really funny, interesting ideas for for like a little series I could do. But I don't know. Part of me is like trying to keep my level of commitments down right now, because I don't know what the future's gonna look like. So I don't want to commit to something that is gonna be really time consuming. And this project would be very time consuming because I would effectively be watching, I don't know, like 4 or 5 hours of, if I do it right, 4 or 5 hours of like video every, I don't know, like 3 to 4 times a week. And then that's not counting other stuff. So it's like, that would be a lot of work. And, you know, that would, if I did start something, I'm being vague because I don't know if I'm going to do it. So I don't want to say it and then not do it. But, yeah, I'm keeping it in the back pocket for now. But today, the plan, I'm going to, what's it called? Talk to the lady about, the tarot lady. She, yeah, I'll see her at 4. So I'm doing like hour-and-a-half walk. Then I'll take a shower. You know, like, what's the time? Time right now is 12:30. So if I'm done by 2, and then take a shower, 2:30, I'll have plenty of time to get food and then head over there. So that's my thought there. I have a bunch of questions that I want to ask. I'm not sure what specifically I will ask, because I'm still kind of trying to piece it all together in my head on like what really matters, and what doesn't. So yeah, so there's that. I want to do a part 2 today to yesterday's video, which was about lore. I kind of have a second part to that. And so I think I want to talk about that. I'm not sure when I'm going to talk about it though, because I also want to talk about something else. So I don't know. I guess I'll start with the lore stuff and then we'll see what else comes up. So last time I talked about the basics of lore as I kind of understand them, and how to really make lore something that you can't help but just kind of get absorbed in. And one of the last things that I was talking about that I didn't really fully flesh out is this idea of the player, the reader, the main character, the whatever. There needs to be some sort of payoff, some sort of, I don't know, like, they need to gain something of value in order to kind of make it really, truly, like, lore that is, oh, look, here, I don't know if I can, hold on, sorry, look at this guy, I don't know what's going on there. I'll leave him be, I don't want to touch him, but that's sad. And if for some reason I fucked up and didn't get the fucking, didn't get the shot right, that was I don't know if it was a butterfly. It looked like a white butterfly, but yeah, anyway. So I mentioned this idea of, like, for an example, in a video game, if you're trying to get invested in some sort of lore, and I use the turtle as an example, if the turtle gave you 1 copper every time you completed his quest, even if you did the full quest chain, you're kind of like, okay, well, like, this really isn't worth it to do. It doesn't really have the same impact as getting some really awesome item or unlocking some new territory or something, right? Getting a new ability, what have you. And so reward is something that I think is understated when it comes to lore. And what I wanted to kind of continue with that lore is this value doesn't have to be physical, doesn't have to be monetary. It can be something very innocuous. And what I mean by that is you can get some sort of emotional satisfaction or there could be some sort of personal meaning. There's a whole multitude of ways that this can kind of come about. And I think when you kind of when you think about it as lore can only be something physical, then you kind of miss on the whole point of why the physical thing is important. It's not because of the physical thing itself. It's because it feels like you've earned something that you can be proud of. And so 1 copper isn't really something you can be proud of. Whereas you get, as an example, in World of Warcraft, there's this long quest chain to get a pair of sunglasses. And the sunglasses are a status symbol. They don't do anything. They just look cool. And so the item itself isn't actually like game breaking or changing something, but instead it's something you feel really good about, where I did this long quest chain, I fought, like in the quest chain you have to fight this guy, and it's actually a pretty tough 1v1 challenge. And so you going and doing this like arena fight thing, and there's a bunch of other parts of the quest chain, there is this sense of accomplishment, and you feel really good about you completing all of this. And because of that, you end up in a scenario where putting the glasses on is a status symbol of that achievement. It's the emotions made manifest in the item. And so the item itself is not what matters. It's the emotion behind the item. And ultimately, that is what I'm kind of referring to when I say that you need to give something of value to the player, the reader, the watcher, whatever it is, right? Whatever medium. And I'll say this is exemplified so well in the VTuber scene. I just watched before I came here, which is why it got me thinking about this again. There was a video of a guy who he went to this Kiara concert, and he was talking about his journey of kind of becoming a part of the fandom, the Hololive fandom / Kiara's fan. And then, you see all of these people holding merch. The plushies, the wands, whatever it be. Signed little banners, things that you're like, why? If you're an outsider looking in, you look at the items themselves. Some of them might be really high quality, right? But others are it's not, the item itself isn't really all that special. And so you might ask, well, why did they buy these items then? The reason is not for the item. The item is symbolic of their dedication, their commitment, their love, their support for their VTuber idol effectively, their Oshi effectively. And so it's not the item. It's never been the item. And this is lore. That is like the definition of what lore does to a reader, a player, a watcher, because lore inevitably is not tied to the physical media or to the thing. It's tied to this, why do I care? It's the question of why do I care? And, you know, why is it that some VTubers make it really big? Fuck. I think I walked into another spider web, but it was like bigger or something. Okay, anyway, sorry. So it's not a question of why. Well, okay, sorry, I'm backing up. So the why. Why do some VTubers make it and others not? Well, the successful VTubers are the ones who build lore, but on top of building lore, there's a genuineness with them. There's something on the screen, hold on. A little cleaning action. Anyway, there's this, in addition to the lore, you also have their genuine existence. And this is why VTubers and idols and, you know, just like, I mean, you can do actors and stuff like that, but there's something different about the like VTuber scene and the idol scene compared to just normal actors. So they don't really fit in the same category, but you get my point. If someone is genuine and has good lore, these two things tying together will draw people in naturally. And so why, you know, you kind of question, well, aren't there lots of people who have really good lore and also have really good, like, genuineness, but still don't make it? And I would say, yeah, sometimes that is the case. But most often, the lore is lacking in some way, and sometimes it's just exposure. Someone needs to make a clip, and the clip goes viral because it's genuinely good lore. It's really funny or really entertaining. And the moment one clip shows up that showcases the lore of this person, they can snowball out of control to become incredibly popular. And so it's not about making the viral clip. The viral clip will show up and people will find out about it. It's, you know, it's a timing thing. On, you know, how long does it take for people to find it, as opposed to if it's going to be found. And again, this is where people kind of fuck up when they're making lore, is they try to force the lore. They try to push, like, oh, isn't this so funny when I did this one thing that someone else did? Or, you know, whatever it is, right? When you're not genuine and you're not just being yourself, then it's really easy for people to suss out this person is being fake as fuck. And so they might have a following, and they could even be relatively successful. But inevitably, the cracks will show, and most people who become successful through some sort of fake persona eventually will be kind of exhausted to the point where they just can't do it. And so they quit, or they stop doing things, they take breaks, what have you, right? Because it's exhausting to not be yourself. Whereas the people who can just keep streaming forever, you know, I think of like Asmongold, okay? Asmongold, he's just himself, you know, for better or for worse. Like, you know, he says his opinions. He streams and plays video games. He reacts to content. Obviously, recently, I say recently, but in the past few years, he's been doing more of the, like, commentary on the world. And, you know, being more of, like, a news person. But regardless, he just says what he's thinking. And if people disagree with him, fuck it, it's okay. Doesn't matter. And the people who do like him are like, hey, we like you because you're this way. And that's it. Okay, I gotta... Ka-cha! Sorry, spider. You have built your web in a shitty place. The web was literally just like a tripwire across the whole fucking path. But anyway, so I'm bringing this up because you can't just do one or the other. If you're genuine, but you have no fucking lore, and you have really, like, you don't think about, and what I mean by lore, sorry, I'm gonna back up a little bit. What I mean by lore what is your theoretical credential? Because lore is almost like a credential for a person. So someone's like, I want to start streaming and become really big and successful and popular. Okay? Maybe that's their goal. Whatever. That's fine. But what is your credential to say you're going to be popular day one? Did you stream before? Obviously not. This is day one. Did you do YouTube videos? What about TikToks? Did you have a social media presence? All of this stuff is lore credential. It is a following of people that enjoy the content you make. So if you've never made content before, you cannot expect people to randomly just decide, oh, the lore is so good, even though there is no lore. And so there's kind of a build-up period where you do not see the success because you have not built up the lore to the point where success will inevitably show up. If no one understands you or has interacted with you, it doesn't matter how funny, how entertaining, how cool you may be. If they've never interacted, you're just a random Joe that no one knows about. And so building up lore and kind of just doing it over time will inevitably create a base that people can look and say, do I like this content? Oh, wow. You know, an example, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I'm just using myself as an example for this, where you look at my channel. I don't have a ton of views. Well, no one fucking knew me before I started YouTube in February, right? But what I do have is consistent content that I'm just showing who I am. And if people like me, cool. If people don't like me, they don't click on the videos. That's it, right? And there's all sorts of content that I've built around talking about, improving myself and kind of being a showcase and kind of, I told my whole fucking life story, so to speak, through the different videos. And then I've kind of shown over the span of from February on, like, what has been going on, right? Now, obviously, I could do a lot of stuff to make myself more visible or, promote myself, whatever. But for me, that's not what this is about. I'm documenting myself, and you guessed it, I'm building up lore behind me. Who am I? You want to know who I am? You can watch all the videos I've posted, or some. And I do need to go and do that like shorter form compilation videos. That's going to be something that I really need to do at some point. But my point is, and now I'll say, this is a very inadvertent thing I've done. You may think, oh, he's planned this from the beginning, and now he's talking about lore. That's not it at all. I started doing the YouTube thing, and I had no fucking clue what was going to show up. And I still don't. I get this feeling that my YouTube channel will be scrutinized in the future by a lot of people. I don't know when that's going to be, but that's like a gut feeling I have. And yeah, so, but I'm going off topic a little bit here. Getting back to the lore, the point of me bringing up this lore is, what are my credentials? Well, I've done a lot of work internally on myself, and none of that shows up in reality, in the traditional sense. You look at me and you won't see the work I've done. You'll just see the physical appearance and how I interact with people. And some of that could be good indicators, but really, it's just like what I was talking about before. No one will know you because there's nothing to base it on. So building up this lore over time is important. Now, past that, if I was to analyze my own lore, I think there are some good points, but there are also like some points where it's like, oh fuck, I just fucking did another spider web. These spider webs are fucking rough. I am the first one today to walk here, I think. So there's a lot that I can say about the lore that I've kind of built. But one thing that I'm happy about is I have just been myself. And that's something that matters really a lot to me. Like, that is the core focus of anything I'm doing. And, you know, you'll see over time, I'll give you an example. The roommate situation, where some days I'm talking about the roommates and I'm like, I'm really annoyed that they did this thing. I'm frustrated. And then the next day I'm talking about them and I'm like, you know, they're actually really nice people. And so you might ask, well, which is it? Are they assholes or are they nice people? And the answer is, depends on what they're doing. And that seems a little counterintuitive, because normally we would say, oh, this friend is awesome and I love them. And then that's it. Or we say, I'm really upset at this person, so I do not like them right now. I gotta blow my nose. Perfect timing. Setting you on the log. All right. So when I say it depends, it's not that the roommates are bad or that the roommates are good. It's that as humans, we will do things that will rub other people the wrong way, regardless of how much you like or hate the person, and vice versa. There will be some things where you're like, wow, that was really kind. I didn't expect that from an asshole, you know? And in both scenarios, you have a preconceived notion of the person, and so you skew everything from the lens of that perspective. However, I look at it very differently. Instead, I look at it from the lens of, okay, there are people that I love. Those are the roommates. Can they do no wrong? No. They definitely can do me wrong. Damn, I thought I heard something like a bike or something. I think it was just my back moving or something. I don't know. That was weird. God, now I'm fucking paranoid. What the fuck? Okay. So you have a scenario where people can do, even your family or your spouse or whatever, the people that you cherish and care about the most, they can do things that either inadvertently or intentionally hurt internally in some way. And it's your kind of job to decide, do I want to allow people the access to kind of your inner heart and to potentially get hurt? And the answer is, if you love someone and you just are yourself, and you're just unconditionally loving them, it's not about whether you open your heart up or not. It's about how you react to a situation. And so you realize it's actually a false pretense. It's not about, oh God, I forgot this hill is tiring. So I'm gonna stop here for a second at the crosswalk. So it's not about, sorry, my nose. So it's not about the specific, for lack of a better term, it's not about what they do. It's about your reaction to the thing they do. And so if there's something that they do that you don't like, you can choose to get pissed at them. You can also choose to say, whatever, and let it go. You can choose to say, hey, I don't like, hey, fuck off, dude. Like, there's a fly that's just like buzzing around. I knocked it in the fucking face already. Hey, come on, leave me alone. Anyway, so it is about how you react to a situation. And this reaction that you do, well, quite frankly, most of the time, we judge people on their actions rather than who they are internally. And even then, you really shouldn't be like judging people in a traditional sense. But, you know, I'm not trying to speak morality to you on this instance. But really, when you... should I turn back? I kind of don't want to go any further today. I think this is a good halfway point. It's a little shorter than an hour and a half, but should be good. But, okay. Sorry. Oh, I still need to blow my nose. Okay. So someone does something that upsets you. Why did it upset you? What was the real reason that it bothered you? Because most of the time, it's not actually the action itself. While it may be annoying or frustrating, it's about the lack of consideration or the lack of understanding of what they're actually doing that upsets you. And this is why I say the action itself isn't the problem. It's the emotional thing behind it that you're reading in that is the problem. This is why you have scenarios of guys who don't take out the trash and they're like, what? It's not a big deal. I just didn't take out the trash. And the wife or the girlfriend in the situation is like, how do you not understand? It's your word that you said you would do something and then you didn't, that is the problem. And if you're pissed because it's like you keep breaking your word, you say you do things and then you don't do them, this is the problem, not taking out the trash. And so this is why separating the action from the emotional internal thing is so important. Because once you master this, you realize, oh, it's not about the garbage. It's never been about the garbage. And so this is really important to understand. And this is why I am so adamant about splitting the action from everything else. Because at the end of the day, whether intentional or unintentional, people will do things action-wise that you don't like. And this is where, you know, I had a conversation with my roommates about a little toy figure that got its sword broken. And I literally said this to them. I don't care that the toy soldier was broken. That's not what matters to me. What bothers me is instead of saying, hey, I accidentally broke this sword, let's fix it. Instead, you hid it away and hope that I wouldn't figure it out because you didn't want conflict. And this is the type of behavior where I understand why. Because if you grew up in a really conflict-based environment, where there was a lot of problems, a lot of frustrations, a lot of anger, the way that you cope with this is to avoid, hide, and try to make yourself really small so that people don't see you. And you hope that maybe this time they won't see me. And sometimes it works. And then it gets reinforced that this is what's happening. So, you know, are the roommates good people? I think genuinely speaking, yeah. Like I think they're great people. Do they have things they need to work on? Yeah, of course they do. But we kind of all have things we need to work on. So it's not just like, you know, I may point out something where I'm like, hey, this really bothered me. And then I talk about it, right? But do I change my opinion on that person just because they did something that bothered me? No, because I still think that they're the same person. They're the same person I like and care about. Or, you know, in this case, like, I love my roommates. Does them breaking the fucking stupid toy change things? No, of course not. The thing that hurt wasn't the toy. The thing that hurt was that they didn't think that they could just come to me and tell me that, hey, I'm sorry, I accidentally broke this thing. They were afraid of me to the point that it was better to hide because the conflict wouldn't show up. And that is where you realize the action has no bearing at all. Now, genuinely, you know, I thought about this and I thought about the car because I've been kind of on the fence. Some parts of me are like, I don't want to leave the car because I'm afraid, again, here it is. I'm afraid that something will happen to the car while I'm gone, and then I'll lose the car somehow, and it'll be fucked because I'm going to be gone for, you know, at this point, it could be 6 or 8 months, okay? I don't actually know how long I'm going to be gone for. But, you know, this is something where I'm letting fear dictate my actions. I'm afraid, therefore I do not want to do the thing that will help you guys out. And I thought about it. I'm like, well, what will my fear cost me? It'll cost me more money. It'll cost me, well, it'll probably make the roommates feel bad because, you know, they're at this point, they're like, oh, well, if it's a cost thing, like, we can totally pay for it, right? And so I thought about it and I'm like, you know, I really shouldn't let fear dictate what I'm gonna do with this car. So instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see if I can add one of my roommates to my car insurance and then have them pay for the car insurance while I'm gone. There we go. That solves all the problems because then there's the liability of the car insurance. They're covered officially, and that's peace of mind for me. Something happens, it's covered under insurance, and that's it, right? So, and it's not to say that they weren't covered before, like they were, but it's more of like they're covered under a certain level of, you know, if they occasionally use the car, my insurance will cover that occasional use. But it's not meant for someone who's going to use it consistently. And while I'm gone, they will be the only ones using the car. So I don't feel comfortable with them not being on the insurance. Now, can things change? Yeah. Am I worried about the car? Sure. Yeah. But what's more is I'm worried not about the car specifically, but about the potential to effectively have them do something that will screw me over. Because it is vulnerable to leave what is effectively one of my most important possessions at this point. Now, I'm not saying that the car is the end all be all, but it's kind of like I'm giving them my house while I'm gone, right? Because if worse comes to worse, I can always live in my car when I come back. Now, do I think that's actually going to happen? No. I actually think that a lot is going to change over this next chapter of my life. But this next era, if you will. But that doesn't mean that I'm not worried. So, you know, realistically, I shouldn't actually worry as much. And this is another step towards me kind of growing as a person and letting people effectively, you know, this is one of those scenarios where it's like I'm giving them rope and I'm like, please don't hang yourself. Because it is possible that they could fuck me over with this car stuff, right? Same thing with if I leave a couple boxes in the garage. That's a potential for me getting fucked over, right? But at the same time, And this is kind of using love as a perfect kind of example here. If you never open yourself up to love, then you're always going to be guarded, and you won't find that deep, true love that you want. And you know, love is a whole other separate thing, where it's like, obviously, loving yourself is, you know, when you're able to love yourself, you don't have to fill a hole with someone else. And so that's where I think a lot of people kind of make mistakes with love, but that's a whole separate thing. I'm not saying you can't be in a relationship and also not work on becoming like self-love, all that stuff, right? But anyway, I've gotten really astray here. So I'm pulling it all back. So, do I love the roommates? Yes. Do I think that they could and have done things that bother me? Yes. Does that mean I should write them off completely and say they're not trustworthy? No. But I also should make sure that there are safety precautions if I'm going to leave the car. Because genuinely, it is the best option for me. Because I don't have to pay for a storage unit. Storage units could be upwards of $200-300. And if I'm paying that, that's effectively paying insurance or more. And if they're willing to pay insurance, then it's kind of like, you know, I'm saving potentially, you know, $1,000+ because they're taking care of the car. And at the same time, they also will be driving it, so the car won't go into disuse, and I won't have to put like special oils or whatever into it. It'll just be used, right? And then on top of it, I am doing something nice for my roommates where I care about them, I do love them, and I do want them to continue having an enjoyable life. And, you know, that's why I'm leaving a bunch of stuff for them. It's not because, yeah, well, I've talked about that, you know, but like, so really, the only thing that's really stopping me from leaving the car is fear. Well, that's a fucking dumb reason to not leave the car, right? But yeah. So, and this is why sometimes I get worried when I talk about someone did something and it bothered me. It's like, don't get it twisted. Just because someone did something that bothered me doesn't mean that I've totally changed my opinion of them. I still love them, I still care about them, whatever it is, right? And I think that's where I distinguish myself from most other people. Because most other people judge based on actions, not on the internal person. And yeah, you know, it's like the roommate that got kicked out. I still love that guy. Like, I haven't talked to him, I haven't interacted with him. He's on his own journey, and he's I don't know where he's at this point in his life, but I've heard through the grapevine that he's probably still doing the same things. He hasn't learned his lesson. So he's just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again until he does learn it. Oh my gosh, why are there so many butterflies on the ground? Look at this. See that guy? Here, let me see. I'm gonna flip this over. Look at him. Oh. Hi. All right, I'm gonna walk around him. You're okay. You're okay, little guy. Okay. That was cool. That's a cool butterfly. I don't know why. Maybe the butterflies are like dying, because I know that butterflies have a pretty short lifespan. I think. I don't know the exact amount, but it's short. My blowing my nose sounds like fucking what's it called? A like an animal call or something. But yeah, so okay. So I've gotten really far from lore, but I'm tying it back. So all of the things I've said and all the things I've kind of talked about over this past several months, I've kind of been unintentionally building up lore. And, you know, this is where I've realized that this is what I'm doing, even if it's an unintentional thing, because everyone builds lore all the time. Like, whether you realize it or not, your life is lore. And you get to build and choose what the lore looks like. So, you know, pulling it completely back to the Kiara, like VTuber stuff. Lore is something that will be built regardless, and you are the one steering the ship of that lore. Are you going to build lore that is interesting, engaging, and genuine? Or are you going to build lore that is boring, uninteresting, or just simply fucked up? Like, you know, I think about the Cinder lore. Cinder was a VTuber, if you don't know, that got into a huge set of controversy. I don't know, like, I think it's almost a year ago at this point. And she, or at least it's been like 6 or 7 months. Haha, 6 or 7. I said the thing. Okay, anyway. So, it's been quite a while. And the whole thing was around deceit, betrayal, lies. And this is a permanent mark on her lore, where even if she's continuing to stream, she waited it out for like 6 months and then started streaming again. And she has, 2,000 plus viewers again. And she just is kind of streaming like nothing happened. And one could say that all the drama could have been it's more complicated. Oh, she didn't do anything wrong, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, that lore went viral and everyone was talking about it. And because of that, it's a piece of lore that was very content dense, where all this juicy gossip came out of like getting a glimpse behind the curtain on the VTuber scene of certain VTubers hating each other, doing fucked up shit to each other, so on and so forth. And I think I'm going to switch the camera. I guess the point with the VTuber stuff is basically she ended up being temporarily kind of blacklisted. Everyone hated her, and that was the end of it. Now she's back, people forget, and everything moves on, right? But you know, that's lore, but it's lore that she didn't craft. She crafted it, but it was unintentionally crafted, or she didn't expect for the lore to get out. And this is where, when you're genuine, you never have to worry about something getting out, because if you just treat people with respect, you make sure that you are who you are, regardless if you're on the screen or off the screen. You never have to worry about something looming in the background that may get exposed, because there's nothing to expose. And some people get off to that kind of thing, where they're like, ooh, am I going to get exposed? Ooh, it's a big thing, you know? But for the people, most people who just don't get off to that kind of thing, it really is a huge disservice to not just be yourself. Because it's exhausting for you. There's a potential for you to get caught, or for the real you to kind of leak through. And at the end of the day, you're attracting the wrong audience, or the wrong kind of thing. And this is why, instead of attracting people who like this fake version of you, attract the people who like the real you. Because, and I'll say, most people who are afraid of being themselves, the reason is because they're not sure. Maybe they don't like themselves. Maybe they're unsure if, like, oh, but I don't know. There's going to be a lot of people who don't like me because I'm not this person that they thought I was. And it's like, yeah, you're going to have that, because when you rip the mask off, they're like, wait, I do not like this new you. And some people will. They'll be like, oh, I'm glad that you finally ripped the mask off. But you kind of, you will inevitably lose some people. But then there you will also gain other people who previously wasn't fucking with your content because they're like, oh, this person's fake as fuck and I don't like them. But the moment you're starting to be genuine, they're like, oh, that's someone I'd fuck with. Boom. There you go. So this is why it just there's no reason other than your own insecurities as to why you would present a fake version of yourself. And that's what I'm kind of bringing to the forefront. That's why genuineness is so important, especially in the age of AI and these, like, all of this having to be perfect. It's like, this is fucking dumb, you know? But okay, let me switch batteries. Hello, I'm back. Man, the forest has been really quiet these past couple days. It's kind of crazy. There's a lot of insects, but the birds are not really out as much. I don't know why. Maybe it's a time of day. Maybe it's too hot. I'm not sure. But I don't hear the birds as much. Maybe it's because there's a lot of owls. I'm not sure. Okay. Whew, I am warm. It is... I think it's... Oh, fuck. I touched a fucking spider web again. Fuck off, fly. Jesus Christ. It's like, this one fly just keeps following me. Fuck off. Anyway. Okay. So, I'm back. I'm talking about stuff. I just ran into another spider web. Okay. So, I guess really, this is why when you're crafting your lore, whether it be personally or whether it be through some sort of I don't know, like a book or a movie or TV show, video game, you know, whatever medium it is. Understanding like just having a basic understanding of how lore is formed, which really it is some sort of event that is out of the norm in some way. So I'll give you an example of not lore, but it is a form of lore. It's just most people are not interested in this lore. And this is also why people can become self-conscious, because it's like, oh, my lore is so unbuilt. So if you sit in your room all day, like I used to, and you rot max, and you just kind of vegetate, consume content, and do nothing, you are building lore, but the lore you're building is very weak, because no one is going to get super excited if you say, they're like, oh, what'd you do? I went out and did a walk. What'd you do today? I laid in bed and watched YouTube. It's like, well, what do I go, where do I go from there? It's kind of, I could ask, okay, well, what YouTube video did you watch? Maybe we can have a conversation about that, right? But at the end of the day, watching YouTube videos is watching YouTube videos. And there isn't really, the things you talk about aren't about you. They're about the things you watched and consumed. You know, it's similar to like, hey, let's go out. Jesus. Hey, let's go out and eat something. Think about that as a great way to build up some bonding between you and whoever else it is. You get to chat, hang out, talk about your life, talk about whatever. Now, that is a very different conversation and a very different experience compared to, sorry, the fucking spider web on the camera. I should start using you guys as little spider web blockers. But yeah, so going and hanging out with someone and getting food is a very different, Jesus Christ, fuck off, fucking flies. I'm trying to say something here. It's a very different experience compared to I ate chili today. Now, if I say I ate chili today, it's like, okay, well, where do we go from there? That's nice. But like, you know, at most it tells me you like chili. And maybe you don't even like chili. But like, the point is, there's nothing else to really build off of that. But if you go and eat food with someone, there's a back and forth, there's him-hawing about what you're gonna order, there's the actual place, you get to talk about the lighting, the tables, you know, the servers, people that you're interacting with, you know, so there's like, it's much more dense in terms of things happening. And so this is why if you're rot maxing, it seems boring because you don't really have anything to talk about other than the stuff you watched. And just as easily, someone could just watch the video and not get a play-by-play from you. So really, the lore becomes kind of boring, and the ending result is, yeah, I just sat in my room. And if you do that repeatedly, you're gonna build up a bunch of loose, not really interesting lore. Now, if you find someone else who also is this fucking spider web, it's like on the side. Oh, Jesus. Okay. The moment I start, I don't look at my fucking feet. I immediately start slipping. But yeah, so this is kind of the point I'm getting at is, okay, you find someone who also rot maxes. Even them, they are interested in dense content. That's why they watch YouTube. So the two of you won't have much to talk about. Now, maybe you can bond over watching videos together, and that's a whole other separate thing, right? But you yourself doesn't really have a lot going on. Now, does that mean that it can't change? Of course. This is why you just need to go out and do stuff. Even if it's walking out on, you know, a nice sunny day, you just do a little walk to the park or the beach or the forest or wherever, whatever thing, a pond, a lake, whatever's close to you. And by you just going out and doing something each day, even if you're like, well, but I'm missing my YouTube content, it's there. Don't trust me, you'll be able to watch it when you get back. But if you want to build up some interesting lore so that you can interact with people and have things to say, go out and do things. You know, do a random trip to some place that you haven't been to. Why? Because I don't fucking know. Seems interesting to you. And you'll find over time that you'll meet people who are also doing random things outside. And you'll be like, oh, hey, I've seen you here a few times. Let's chat. Why are you here? And this is where you be genuine. You're like, I've been rot maxing in my room, and I thought, damn, I should go outside and do something. So that's why I'm here. And, you know, maybe the other person has the same thing. Like, yeah, me too. And then maybe you become friends. You know, this is also why the VTuber fan base, see, I tied it all back to the VTuber fan base and lore, because I've been talking about lore. But anyway, so the VTuber fan base, one of the things that I've noticed is all the meetups, meeting other fans, talking about the same things that you guys enjoy. It could be going to a concert, doing a meet and greet, showing up at a convention. You know, all of these things are things that, even if you're sitting alone in your room most of the time, you can go out and be a part of a cool experience. And some people don't have the money for it, and I totally get it. But, you know, if you have the capability to sit in your room all day, then you probably have the capability to go and do stuff. So, yeah. So lore, we're all building it. So you have to decide what you want your lore to look like. And, you know, I think about the fact that it's like, I'm 37, okay? And, you know, I have a lot of lore, to be fair. But there was a whole stretch, like 4 or 5 years of time, where I was in my room, rot maxing, being depressed, trying to figure out how to understand myself. And that time, you know, there was nothing there. Aside from, I had a huge transformation internally, but externally, you know, I told you what I did. Like, are you interested in hearing about the fucking random guru I listened to that gave me an inspiration that had me meditate for 10 hours? Probably not. It's fucking boring. So, now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can't make interesting content out of that, but, you know, my point is, you won't create something if you don't start doing something. Doesn't matter how old you are. You can be 50 and retired, and you're like, I don't know what to do with my life. Yeah, welcome to the club. Most people don't. Hop on in the fucking bus, you know? Because, yeah, most people just don't know what they're gonna do. Because jobs were kind of the thing that we've been taught is how we exist. So if you don't have a job, suddenly it's like, what is meaning to life? What do I do? And it's like, yeah, true, same, you know? And that's where the journey begins, is you breaking free of the understanding that your job is your life. It's not true at all. They want you to think that These corporations want you to work so they can make more money. They wouldn't hire you if they weren't making more money than they were paying you. And sure, you get a decent income, you can buy a house or live in an apartment or whatever, but that doesn't, doesn't mean that they're not making money off of you. Oh, hey, little guy. Oh, look at this guy. Look at him. Oh. What the fuck? Why did that do that? There we go. Look at this little guy. Look at him. He's just a little guy. He's just a little guy. Let me see. Look at him. He's just living in his little... He's trying to dig or do something. Okay, I need to blow my nose. Now think about this. If I hadn't come out and done a walk, I wouldn't have seen the butterfly or the two butterflies. I wouldn't have seen, oh, fuck me, this fucking fly. Bro, fuck off. I don't want you in my fucking eye. It's like, trust me, you think you want to be in my eye, but you don't because you're gonna be dead. So, okay. Yeah, but like, I wasn't able to, okay. I wasn't able to see the like little mole guy. I saw a bunch of birds. Yeah, didn't see any squirrels, which is crazy. But yeah, and that's lore, right? I got to have a little enjoyable experience, and like, I wouldn't have had that if I was just in my room. Which is, there's nothing wrong with being in my room, but like, if I want to have a more dense life that has a lot of stuff going on, that has surprises, well, you can't just be in your room all the time. You got to go out and build your own lore. Be yourself, experience what life has to offer, and yeah, just like, don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about where you're starting. Again, you could be 50, 60, however old. It's never too late to go and explore and experience things. You just go out and do things. That's it. And, it doesn't even have to be that far. You can go and like garden in your house. Or like, go to a store, get a potted plant and, plant the potted plant or whatever, It can be very simple things. But the moment you decide that you're going to kind of give up on yourself and on, living life to the fullest, then you end up just sitting in your room, being bored, tired, and you're just going to go on YouTube or hop on the computer or whatever, And there's nothing wrong with that sometimes, but you don't want that to be all the time. Because when it's all the time, you get depressed because that's all you're doing. And you know that you're sad. You're like, I want to be doing more. So go out and do more. And it doesn't have to be super hard. So yeah, just do it at your own pace. And it also, you don't have to worry about what other people think. Because why does it matter what other people think about what you're doing? It just matters that you enjoy what you're doing. So, assuming that you're like, doing all the disclaimers of like, obviously you're not like fucking someone else over or being like rude or mean to someone, common decency. I just saw a bigger bird get chased by a fucking what's it called? A hummingbird. It's just the hummingbird just it was really funny. But yeah. So I don't know. Like, does that make sense? That's why I wanted to bring up this lore thing again. Because really, we are building our lore, and you always have a choice. You have a choice even when you don't think you have a choice. You have a choice of how you react. You have a choice of what you're going to do. And you also have a choice of whether you're going to be genuine yourself and allow to be vulnerable and to be open to just showcasing who you are instead of the mask that you can put on. Because the mask is easy. You know, you can attract anyone you want to be interacting with you if you have a mask on that perfectly fits what that person wants. But it's only ever going to be a mask. It's not you. So you're going to be sad when they like that version of you, and then later down the line when you're like, okay, I'm too tired to do this, hopefully they'll just like me now that they've gotten to know me. It's like, why didn't you just lead with, hey, this is who I am? Because when you do that, if they're not interested in you, then they're like, hey, you know, like, you're cool, but like, I got other stuff going on. But you also can have tons of people who are like, I really like the you that you're showing me. And that is the true you. So you don't have to hide. You don't have to be weird. You just are yourself. And it's really freeing and liberating. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go. I got to get some stuff done. So I will see you guys all later. Bye. Oh, sorry. Almost forgot. I don't think I might do a video later in the day, but I don't know. We'll see. Because I do want to talk about the reading. So we'll see. But if I don't, you know, I just got busy. So you'll find out either later today or tomorrow. All right. Bye.